The waste generated from various sources can be categorized into two types. First one is biodegradable waste, second one non-biodegradable waste. Biodegradable waste includes substances that can be degraded by microorganisms into harmless and non-toxic substances. Plants and animals waste like leaves, twigs, hay, dung, etc. are called biodegradable waste. Non-biodegradable waste can be easily degraded. Aluminum cans, plastic glasses, glass frames, chemicals like DDT are examples of non-biodegradable waste. Radioactive waste produced during the nuclear reactions like a long time to take decay and are harmful to human beings. Nowadays, e-waste also leads to soil pollution. The main causes for land pollution are agricultural soil pollution by industrial effluents and solid waste, pollution due to urban activities. There are many ways by which land pollution can occur. Some soils are commonly used as dumps for households and industrial waste. In many intensively farmed areas, leaching of nutrients from manure or inorganic fertilizers and effluents from processing plants may lead to high level of nitrate and other chemicals in groundwater. Soil pollution is caused by presence of man-made chemicals or other alternative methods in this natural soil environment. This type of contamination typically arises from the rupture of underground storage links, application of pesticides, and percolation of contaminated surface water to subsurface strata, oil and fuel dumping, leaching of waste from landfills, or direct discharge of industrial waste to the soil. The common chemicals involved are petroleum hydrocarbons, solvents, pesticides, lead, and other heavy metals. The intensity of pollution correlates with the degree of industrialization and intensifies of chemical usage. A soil pollutant in any factor which deteriorates the quality, texture, mineral content of the soil or that disturbs the biological balance of the organisms in the soil. Pollution in soil shows an adverse effect on plant growth and living organisms in the soil. Pollution in soil is associated with indiscriminate use of fertilizers, indiscriminate use of pesticides, insecticides, and herbicides, dumping of large quantities of solid waste, deforestation of. We will see one by one. First one is indiscriminate use of fertilizers. Soil nutrients are important for plant growth and development. Plants obtain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen from air and water. But other necessary nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur must be obtained from the soil. Farmers generally use fertilizers to correct soil deficiencies. Fertilizers contaminate the soil with impurities which come from the raw materials used for their manufacture. Mixed fertilizers often contain nitrogen as ammonium nitrate, phosphorus as P2O5, potassium as potassium oxide. For instance, lead, cadmium, also present in traces in rock phosphate mineral, get transferred to the superphosphate fertilizers. Since the metals are non-degradable, their accumulation in soil above their toxic levels due to excessive use of phosphate fertilizers becomes an indestructible poison for crops. In this way, agriculture is also one of the responsible elements of soil pollution. Second one is indiscriminate use of pesticides, insecticides, and herbicides. We depend on plants for various purposes, but they are under contact from insects, fungus, bacteria, viruses, rodents, and other animals, and must compete with weeds for nutrients. To kill unwanted population living in or on their crops, farmers used pesticides. The first widespread use of insecticide began at the end of World War II that included DDT, which means dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane and chemaxin. Insects soon became resistant to DDT as the chemical did not decompose readily. It persisted in the environment. Since DDT is soluble in fat rather than other like water, it biomagnified up in the food chain and disrupted calcium metabolism in birds, causing eggshells to be thin and fragile. As a result, large birds of prey such as brown pelican, ospreys, falcons, eagles became endangered. Besides DDT, other most important pesticides are benzene hexachloride, that is BHC, chlorinated dihydrocarbons, organophosphates, aldrin, malathion, dieldrin, furadon, etc. These are all the reasons of soil pollution. Pesticides not only have toxic effect on human and animals but also decrease the fertility of the soil. Some of the pesticides are quite stable and their biodegradation may take weeks and even months. Next is biomagnification. Nutrients necessary for plant growth at very low concentrations in most natural waters in order to obtain sufficient quantities for growth. Phytoplankton must collect these chemical elements from a relatively large volume of water. In the process of collecting these nutrients, phytoplankton also collects certain human made chemicals such as some persistent pesticides. These may be present in water at a very low concentration that they cannot be measured even with very sensitive instruments. But after the long usage of such chemicals, the plants get accumulated with such chemicals which will be harmful and toxic. In doing so, any toxic chemicals accumulated by plankton are further concentrated in the bodies of the animals that they eat. This is repeated at each step in the food chain. This process of increasing concentration through food chain is known as biomagnification. Dumping of solid waste. The overflowing and stench rising from dustbin is familiar sights and smells of a crowded city. Since beginning, mankind has been generating waste from the bones and other parts of animals they slaughter for their food or the wood they cut to make their carts. With the progress of civilization, the waste generated become a more complex issue. After the Industrial Revolution of 19th century, there is a rise of world of consumers. The increase in population and urbanization are largely responsible for the increase in solid waste. Solid waste, on the basis of its sources of origin, can be classified as municipal solid waste, which consists of household waste, construction and demolition debris, sanitation residue. Second one is hazardous solid waste. Industrial and hospital waste is considered to be hazardous and poisonous waste as they contain toxic substances. Infectious solid waste, biomedical or hospital waste generated during diagnosis, treatment, etc. that include sharp instruments, chemical waste, disregarded medicines, and human excreta, etc. Deforestation. Soil erosion occurs when the weathered soil particles are dislodged and carried away by wind or water.